That's a lovely touch from him, though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance. Last chance! Matt Doherty!
Oh, you shite! There could be
From
the dead to the
Don't fuck it up now! Don't fuck it up! Go win it! Go win it! Go win it!
Let's go
Last chance! Stephen Berghvall! Stephen Berghvall's through! Win it, Stephen! Come on!
Yes! He's won it! He has won it! Oh my God! Oh my God! We did it!
Yo, check that out. Oh, I started my spiel then and I didn't have myself back on camera. As always, it's Saturday night. How you doing, people? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things that you love, for those you have to do them with. Strap yourselves in, guys, because as summer is approaching and you're wondering whether or not Sean Butler and those that like to reel out the various transfer links galore, well, was it possible? Is it possible to do it with Johan Lang and his keeping his cards close to his chest motif? No, it isn't. January is boring. But come of the hour, come of the dawn, and he looks likely to be back. And in that word, that world means that we're back in business. This summer is going to be ra-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. And we've got 7. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 8, 7 links for you straight off the bat. The moment the man is almost announced, but not yet announced, we got 7 links straight out of the gate. It's going to be fun. And we've got people to talk you through it all tonight. We're bringing back in 2 of the greatest faces in the YouTube community. One of them doesn't have his own channel, but he's a regular around these here parts, the regular over in the Irish world of the Irish Hotspur. And Jack Boy Kinsky, we got Drew Zilla. How are you, Drew?
Ciao. Ciao, Sean. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.
This the club. This the club. I have so many transfer targets at this club. I like to spin a plate.
Dude,
how are you, mate?
Pleasure to be here. Love you show. Everybody in the chat, big up. Remember to smash the like button. Remember to check your subscriptions. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's go.
Well, we can't go yet. We've got one more name to bring in. You might know him, Tottenham fam, from the world of interviews. This guy is like, he's the Fabio Paratici of getting the best interviews in the Tottenham community. It doesn't matter who we're playing, where we're playing, what language they speak. It doesn't matter. This guy makes it happen. Please welcome to the show for his re-return. This is, I think, his 4th or 5th appearance on the show. It's always wonderful to spend some time with this guy. It's Jim from Oso Spurs. Jimmy boy, how are you, buddy?
Ciao, guys. Very good. Very good. Yes. Also feeling the excitement in the room. So much good energy around Spurs after that win. And yeah, really exciting links. I'm actually really, really excited. It's nice to have that energy back around the club. Even if it's only for a short time, love it when it's here.
Same, mate, same. And do you know what? I feel like I have to make a public service announcement because I put out the video straight after the game, right? And then I didn't get a chance to after I finished it, this is after the Bodo game on Thursday night, I was already tired. I've been in the sun all day long with Tottenham fans down the high road, and it had taken its toll on me. And I was tired and I was a little bit deflated by that late goal that they scored. And then seeing the Bodo fans walking out singing their songs, they seemed to be happier than we were generally as I was looking at. And then I get in the car and drive home, and it was just traffic. I didn't get home. It was like a 2.5 hour wait to drive about a mile because of police stops or traffic, whatever, accidents. And so I was a bit angry. I was fed up, frustrated, hot. Just generally speaking, I wasn't built for this weather. I'm a Bodo build rather than a 30-degree build kind of guy. And generally speaking, I feel like my narrative then in that video and the next day on the video was a little bit too So I don't want to come across that way because ultimately we do have one toe in the final. And I want to get your guys' takes on that initially, what your thoughts were about the game. We've got a lot of work to do. The tie isn't over. but I probably was a little bit overly meh about it, and I shouldn't have been, because ultimately, how often do we get in this position, and you can't write off these teams and just expect us to go and just smash a team 4-0. It's not that simple. So I was probably a little bit overly negative, but that's how I felt at the time. Today I feel different. Maybe it's slightly because I've had a bit of I've only had one drink today, and it's now evening time, and I'm about to kick in. I've got a bottle of vodka here, and everything's going well. Everything's going well. Paratici news. These links we're going to get through. It's going to be sensational. But before we get into that, guys, smash the like, smash the subscribe, hit the notification bell, keep your comments dropping. I'll be pulling them up throughout the show. I'm going to start with you, Drew. Bodo, 3-1. Give me your overarching thoughts, but within that, include, if you may, your thoughts on the tactics and on the team selection, because there were some surprises with regards. Obviously, Bissouma turning up, Lucas Berghvall now being out injured, and obviously Richalison coming in playing off the left. It was just a little bit unorthodox. We weren't really sure what was going to happen. And then obviously it was a great start. But talk me through your thoughts on the day, mate, the evening.
I'll tell you, my immediate reaction, as soon as the lineup came up, right, my immediate reaction as soon as I saw this guy doing this was, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then I had to do what I always do, take a deep breath, take a bit of a step back. And to be honest with you, I just feel like it kind of made sense within the confines of the situation, right? You've got the news that Berghvall's out. I don't think Sarr has particularly been on it since, for the last couple of months, sort of since since he's been dealing with Ramadan. I mean, he's a young kid. He's got to get his stamina back up, I would assume. And he's just not really been setting the place alight. So for my mind, I just thought, although it's a risk, and although you're going, oh God, not this guy, it seemed to make, logical sense when you look at it. With Richie up front, I kind of got the impression, I said this on the Irish Hotspur, I thought that by playing Richie up front, you were essentially sort of somewhat throwing caution to the wind a little bit, but you were also giving them more to think about than they thought that they were going to have to think about. You've got two burly guys up there that are going to throw themselves about a bit against a makeshift defence and against a makeshift midfield. And I thought the idea was essentially going to be, give the ball to Porro, have him whip in balls, and basically just kind of go for their throat. And then you've got Bentancur and Bissouma basically just trying to win possession back high up the field. And it was a bit just a case for me, get as many goals as you can as quickly as possible, and then kind of shut up shop. And then the first goal went in, and I think the reaction of the players was that before they'd even had a chance to get into a rhythm, they already had something on the board that was there to lose. So I think subconsciously for about 10, 15 minutes, they then kind of had to figure out what they were going to do, because I think it just kind of surprised them a bit. But overall, I was really happy, to be honest with you. I expected us to concede a goal. I kind of thought we would score maybe one more. I thought there was 4 on the cards. But look, we can't complain, right? It was a pretty convincing 3-1 win. I know it was a makeshift Bodo. People will say that, we should be doing better anyway, but they're a very, very well coached team. Everybody there has got that sort of, everybody appears to know where everybody is. I think we did well letting them come on to us. I think we controlled the game, even though they had more passes and more possession. I think we had another gear or another couple of gears if we wanted it. So yeah, overall, I really, really can't complain. Was it a bit of a gut punch towards the end? Yeah, but like I say, I kind of half expected it. So we should be good enough to go there and not lose.
Yeah. I just felt like I don't disagree with anything you said. I just felt like at times, I said this before, when you get that early goal that's unexpected, Jim. And the crowd was sensational, by the way. The crowd gave that lift for sure, and it was nice that the players and the manager kind of recognised it. We were, I think we were like the best we've ever been as a stadium. I just thought when you get the first goal, and then everything kind of just went really flat for the next 20 minutes, Jim. I just felt like it was more, terracotta army than Yid army. I just felt like it was statuesque a little bit. I said it a couple of times. Jim, what was your takeaway, mate? Like, did you think that we did enough? Was it? Were you okay with it? Could we have done more? How did you experience it?
Yeah, firstly, I understand why many people have gone away from that feeling like not disappointed that, not disappointed, but they've gone away feeling like there was an opportunity to do a little bit more and make it a perfect day. And I think, look, the sun was shining. It's a bank holiday weekend. The tins have been cracked open at 9 a.m. on the trains on the way down. Everyone was like, God, wouldn't a 4 or 5-0 win just top this off and just make it a perfect day? And they came home with a win, but it wasn't in the perfect way they wanted it. But look, when you try to take the kind of whole emotion and context of the day out of it for a second, and you look at, there were so many other positives that haven't really been made big enough deal of, in my opinion. And firstly, on the injury crisis, we sat down with Sander, he lives in Bodo. He's a Bodo season ticket. Obviously, he goes to all the Bodo games, but he's a Tottenham fan primarily, right? That's his team. So,
wow. Okay.
And we said to him,
how did you find him?
Really random. It was really random. I met him walking to the ground. Him and his dad were like, "Hi, we've come from Norway." This was like a year ago. "Hi, I've come from Norway. Blah blah blah. Any recommendations of good pubs around here?" Like, we're massive Spurs fans. I think that his dad grew up on that. Anyway, but we kept in touch since then. And then I put a message out to say, "Anyone know a Spurs fan in Bodo? Longest shot in the world." And he came straight back. He was like, "Yeah,
there
me,
he
mate,
is.
remember?"
That's amazing.
Like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
brilliant.
That's
So
amazing.
we got chatting. And but anyway, I was saying, like, what about this injury crisis? Can you tell me more? He's like, it's being overplayed primarily by Bodo themselves on purpose. Out of all those players missing, 2 are sure starters. 2 are sure starters.
Helgeson, or what his name is, Helmanson, or whatever.
There's a third one who's he starts a lot of the Europa games for tactical reasons, but he's in and out, and he's suspended. He's not actually injured. And the others were backups or just squad players. So I mean, missing 2 starters is just standard for most weeks for most teams, isn't it? We were missing 1, and then we ended up with missing 4 by the end of the game. So I don't think it was I get the key is they were missing their key playmaker, their key man who connects the midfield to attack. He did say that, but he said the backups for those players, apart from the playmaker, were pretty solid. That wasn't a really, really weak team. So that was a bit overblown, and I think that raised our expectations maybe a little bit higher than they perhaps should have been in that game. But there was a massive positive I spotted in that game, and that was, in my eyes, Tottenham's biggest issue this year that they needed to fix. Well, actually, no, it started with set pieces, but the biggest issue of the last 3 or 4 months has been the way the fullbacks play. It's how many times have we seen us go forward with those fullbacks, get caught out in the final third, and they just go, "Thank you very much," ping into the spot Porro or Udogie would be standing. They've got a chance 10 seconds later, and it's a goal. What Ange did in that game was what I liked, but it really frustrated everyone on the ground. We'd start bombing forward, and like you said, it would be like statues. The fullbacks would stop. And you see the Bodo players turning back to track back because their game plan was let them do it, win back possession, smack them on the counter. We called it, it's kind of like a full counter. I forgot the pronunciation there is awful, but JJ, the coach, was explaining it to me. And he was saying, what we did is we faked an attack, and that led them to suddenly stream out thinking, yes, here they go. Then we'd stop and they go, what on earth's happening? Panic. They'd run at our fullbacks and start high pressing us, which wasn't part of their game plan. But they're high pressing us at the middle of the pitch. We'd almost turned our attack into a counter opportunity. So then we're countering them, even though we've had the ball all along. And then we're going, you've come at us. Now we're just playing for the middle and we just expose the gaps. So the way we utilize the fullbacks was completely different. And to me, I really want to see if we bring that into the league and if that works this weekend. I really want to see, because if that works, the chances of us making it through that next second leg and actually winning a couple of these last league games and finishing with some pride this season are going to be dramatically better. So that was great. And the possession doesn't really bother me. I know that annoyed a lot of people, but I'd rather have 40% possession and 23 shots versus the opposition's 3. How many times have we seen 60-70% possession and been like, well, we only had 1 meaningful chance, we lost. So it's complete flip on stereotypical Ange. But I think that's got people scratching their heads like, this is surely us just playing badly or being stuck for ideas, because we don't do this. But I'm hoping we see it again, because that would mean it's deliberate. And that would mean...
I think it was deliberate. I don't doubt for a second it was deliberate. But what I'd ask is, why is it that we seem to be able to put these deliberate tactics in play in big games? But yeah, I imagine that tomorrow we're going to revert back to some version of Ange ball, like we tried to do after Frankfurt. And that to me is like the head scratcher, is like, if we can do this kind of pragmatic-ish-esque kind of vibe in the Europa games where they matter, is there just a deprioritization and a stubbornness with regards to tactics that haven't worked? But surely something similar would work in the Premier League as well, better than the other version of which we've seen. Like Ange ball is like the old version, the initial version of Ange ball that we saw. That's clearly been found out, and Ange doesn't seem to want to do that anymore in Europe, and it's working.
Yeah.
But then when we play in a league game, we seem to revert back to the method that doesn't work, and that's the head scratch for me. I'm happy if this model continued and had been seen more frequently in the league against certain teams, I would be happy with it. But it doesn't seem.
I completely agree. If it goes back to the league, that's what I think what people find frustrating. It's like, if we see that in the league, it's like, it's not even deprioritized, because there's no extra effort to do the other way. So why would you not do the other way and give it a go? I don't know if it's because we rotate so heavily, it doesn't feel with the players to pull it off without the ones that were. I don't know, but it would mean, I don't think we're all expecting much from West Ham away, because we know we're going to rotate so much. More important to me than anything is seeing us bring the lessons from that performance that have worked into the league game, and seeing us trying to execute that against West Ham away from home. And then I think we'd actually get something out of that game, despite rotating 5 or 6 players. I still think we'd get a point out of it if we played that way.
Just last question for you, Jim, before I bring Drew back in. If you were to see, I'm pretty sure that your stance on Ange is relatively on the kind of the less frequently heard sort of side these days in the YouTube or online space, but you've been fairly resilient in back in the club, back in the manager, and being more on that kind of patient side. Are you still of the mindset, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but are you still of the mindset that if he wins the league, the Europa League, that he should maintain his place as manager and at the helm next season? And if so, is that dependent on him learning from the things you've just mentioned?
It's completely dependent on how the learnings are shown and the remainder of the season to me, because I try not to fixate. I know it's all about results, but I try not to fixate on the result right now, but focus on the performances, because we've lost games and been really bad. That's a massive red flag for me, versus we're playing really well and we're not exceeding those really it's the repetitiveness of the types of chances we were conceding. I need to see those drying up. I need to see those tactical tweaks that we understand our challenges and we understand our issues, because people do forget, like, these managers, a similar thing with like Daniel Farke, people like that just getting the chop. Well, these guys aren't like, okay, a piece of computer code that's just copied and pasted between teams. They're humans who learn, get better, and at that level, they're typically very driven individuals who learn and are very open to their own weaknesses. So most important to me is to see, is Ange going to be really, really stubborn on his principles and not concede anything, or is he going to continue to make these tweaks and we're going to continue to see improvements? If that's the case, I think there's more upside than downside to saying, okay, prove that's going to roll into next season and we're going to see a significant uptick into the league, and give it till Christmas. If we go into the end of the season and it's just the same old stuff, then I completely understand why the club would want to make a change. But again, it all depends on what this new CEO, I think whatever the CEO and Fab, whoever's going to be in charge, we don't really know yet.
Cousin Vinny,
whatever Vin wants, I think we have to give to him. Ultimately, the CEO needs to be from the start told, fully trust you. Daniel needs to go, here are the keys, mate. You know football. I don't. I'll do the business. You go sort who do you want as your manager for this thing. And if Vin says, I want to stick with Ange, great, stick with him. But if he doesn't, I think it would be toxic for Daniel Levy to step in and try and block, the first decision the new CEO is trying to make.
Exactly. Yeah.
Drew, same questions to you, mate. Again, forgive me, mate. I don't know your overall stance on Ange. Are you someone who is Ange out regardless of the outcome? Is it Ange in, out, dependent on the outcome? Is it dependent on what Vinny wants? What's your stance on the manager situation?
I've never really been kind of in or out. Like I've always said, I just want it to work. Like, I'm so sick and tired of the chopping and the changing that I just want it to work. And I'm kind of with Jim. I mean, I thought we had a really, really good opportunity 10 games ago when people started to come back from their injury. There were still 33 points to play for in the league when I turned around and said that I thought we could actually go on a bit of a run and we could make something of the last quarter of this season or the last third of this season. And unfortunately, as far as the league has gone, it just seems to have gone from bad to worse. And I concur with Jim. I'm just seeing the same issues, the same things happening over and over again. And that was my concern, that if you're continually going out there and making the same errors, I mean, it's just like insanity. Like, it's clear that this isn't working. But then, obviously you go on a great run in Europe, and now I'm sitting here going, well, I just don't know. I can see a scenario if we don't qualify, then it's easy to say goodbye. If we do qualify, if we win and then qualify for the Champions League, I can see a scenario where they, give him more time. I can also, and I mentioned this on a show this morning, I can also see a scenario where the guy has. I was on stateside footy with Steve and Dave Harris.
Plug that. Pick up stateside footy. Guy was there.
We'll do. Thank you, bro. Appreciate that. And I basically said that I feel like the guy's almost dangled himself with enough rope that I can see a scenario where he still wins the Europa League, but then he gets sacked on the basis of the fact that the last couple of months has been pretty toxic, and then that way the club can go, oh, well, you kind of gave us vibes that you didn't really want this guy, so we were just doing what we thought you wanted. But like, to Jim's point, if Vinny comes in, it's kind of what Vinny wants. Like, it has to be. You can't start a new regime. Exactly. I'm sorry to, just echo exactly what Jim said, but he's exactly right. You can't start a new regime and then completely undermine the first decision that the guy tries to make. So, as much as I said, I hate the chopping and the changing, I don't want to do this dance again. If it means that finally we start going on a trajectory that everybody's on the same page with, and we start actually turning a corner as a club, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to stay true to my word, right? As much as my gut instinct tells me that a successful Europa League campaign, i.e. lifting the trophy, and by the way, I am not someone who's ever judged a season as successful if it has a trophy and a failure if it doesn't. Like this, I said it before, it's and no disrespect to him, but the Lee Gunner overly simplistic viewpoint of football is not really how I view things. Right? I think that there's nuances and context and variance that should always be part of the conversation. But in a world where we do win and have success in the Europa League, then I would understand if the club decided to reward that on a merit basis. I'd understand it. I'd get behind it. And I would root for him next season. At the same time, I would be more than happy to see a new manager coming in because I don't really see enough variance in his tactical nous. And I think that if we're starting to see a plan B in Europe, but we don't see it in the Premier League, then that I scratch my head as to why that is. And, people like Johnny that I spend a lot of time with make the argument, and they make it quite well, I think, that, maybe it's more of the players that are, certainly listening to the manager's tactical insight, but ultimately is it them that's just stepping up and taking this kind of taking the carrot here? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not close enough, obviously, to any of these things. But I'm kind of I understand either outcome. I'm probably rooting for Tottenham's success, and then Ange Postecoglou saying, "Here's your effing trophy," and moving on.
Do you honestly? Do you genuinely
win for everybody?
Do you see him? Do you see a scenario where he walks away and gives up Champions League football? Because I just don't. I don't see him.
I don't see him giving up
all of that.
I don't see him giving up $5 million. I think the money is more of the reason why. No, who's going to turn down £5 million a year? But I do think he will get a job offer if he wins. I said this on my various uploads. Right? I just think it's a line in the sand time. Like, he literally is statistically our worst manager in Premier League history if he fails in the next tomorrow night or Thursday night rather.
Yeah.
But if he wins the cup, he's our most successful manager. And it's such a weird, wild scenario to be in that, you go from the worst to the best depending on 90 minutes of football. That is the crazy batshit world in which Tottenham fans have to, pick their opinions. And that's why I've always said every opinion in the Tottenham fan base, barring some wildly weird ones that are in the minutiae, in the minority, most opinions are logical and to a degree and certainly valid, because we operate a world whereby expectations versus reality is very specific and unique to Tottenham, because we're the club that's been banging on that Fort Knox door for so long. We've been the club that have been trying to close the gap on the big 5 or 6, whatever, more than most over the last 20 years. And so with that comes expectation. With that comes its own kind of precedent. But either way, like I say, it's unique. But I'm not going to bang on about my opinions anymore for too much more, because I want to get yours on the channel. Let's sort of take this segue here and move into. Both of you mentioned Vinny, right? It's important that he gets his first, and hopefully the majority of his decisions approved, and that he has the authority to do what he wants to do. If this news about Fabio Paratici is true, first of all, let's just sort of give some of the context. It has been banded around. I think it started off in the football boot room or Graham Bailey, but since then it's picked up some wind, and it's now getting into some sort of more larger and more respected. No disrespect to Graham Bailey, but like higher caliber, if you like, journals. The expectation is that he's there. I heard a rumor that he was in the stadium on Thursday. So all that stuff is, may or may not be, may or may not be true. But I lean into the idea that I think it is. There's this whole notion that he was going to Milan. We didn't hear anything. There was nothing confirmed. I think that might have been like a bit of a, Fabio doing the plate spinning thing. Like I'll angle 2 carrots and I'll pick one. If he is coming in and the story is true that he has overarching final say on footballing staffing matters, then does that leave you guys with the notion that that's a Vinny decision? Is that a Levy decision? Is that a combined decision? Who's deciding on the continuation of the Paratici relationship? And what does that look like in your eyes? I'll start with you, Drew.
I think it goes back to everybody needing to be on the same page, and I would like to think it's a combined effort. I would like to think that Levy has maybe sniffed out Vinny at some sort of meeting somewhere, or they've had a discussion and he sounded him out and said, like, hey, how do you feel about coming to Spurs? And maybe Vinny's turned around and said, well, how do you feel about Paratici coming back? Or Levy said, I'd like you to come in. Can you work with this guy? Like, it can't just be another scattergun approach where Levy's gone, right, I want you, you two have got to work together. Now let's bring you in. Like, it has to be from the top down. So I would hope, given that Vinny was already kind of announced a few weeks ago, I would like to think that now this has been announced, it is a domino effect of decisions. Yeah, let's go with this. I mean, I don't know if it's been confirmed. I think it has been confirmed that Munn's going. I don't know if it's been confirmed that Langer's going. So, I mean, I'm sure.
I hadn't even heard that. Have you seen that Munn's going? I
thought I'd heard somewhere, and forgive me if I'm wrong and tell me if I'm wrong, chat, but I thought it had been released that he was most likely to go at the end of the season. I thought that had come out. But yeah, I've not heard anything about Langer leaving. So
I don't hear anything, mate. No one tells me nothing. So.
There were definitely reports to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would certainly hope, as I say, it's a top-down thing. Levy's gone to Vinny. Vinny says yes. Who's gone to Paratici? Paratici said yes. And we'll kind of go from there, because that would be the best way forward in my books.
Jim, what say you, mate? If you can show, you seem to have some sort of, you must have connections to someone somewhere, mate, to be able to get some of the people that you've had onto your channel. So that share some of the love, buddy. What's going on?
I think we'll be able to. Either way, we're guessing, but we're trying to make educated guesses, right? Best information we can. And I will take part in that, because what's the fun of football if you always go, oh, no one knows for sure. So let's speculate and create rumours and drama.
Throw it out there. Let's get some drama.
Let's get stuck in. Let's just quote this as facts. Who told me this? I think it'll be a lot clearer when we know what Fab's role is. We don't know, do we? Like, his title could be, assistant to the CEO, or it could be CEO of football. We don't know.
There are known knowns. There are things we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know.
Sorry,
we don't know what his role is. So, but I get the impression that Fab's role is more a walking around. Well, I hope it is as well. Kind of Levy's day-to-day consultant on what should I do to someone who actually knows what they're talking about in the football world, rather than necessarily being an official CEO structure type position or whatever. What we do know about Daniel Levy, we've heard it from people who used to work at the club, ex-players who have been released by Daniel Levy recently. Who was it? He explained that Levy has 2 or 3 close confidants at any one time who he believes knows more about football than him, that he will consult with over decisions. And I think when he first brought in Fab really elevated the club to another level. It really opened Levy's eyes to, wow, that's how clubs like Juventus operate from the inside. Right. There's so much we can learn from this. And he was really enjoying that relationship with Fabrizio. But then it obviously got put on hold with the legal issues and all that kind of stuff, his dealings. But
is that 100? Do we know, is that 100% behind him now? Is there anything else? Is there any more skeletons in the closet to come out and like?
Well, isn't he under investigation again for something else?
That's what I heard. That's exactly what
I read earlier this morning that the reason that the Milan thing fell through was because Milan pulled out because they still weren't sure if he was 100% clean.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just see it now.
Use the glove.
He signs back in, gets a 2-year deal, and then in September I'll be extending my Paratici. The investigation continues. Program. Like, what are we doing here?
I think to protect itself, surely with that kind of employee, the club isn't going to directly employ Fab. It's going to be one of those, when big corporations, you all worked in them, you have your employees which are contracted directly by your employer, and then you have agencies who employ people on
0 hours, baby, 0 hours.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's because they can just hire more of them, get rid of them when they want quickly, and not commit to that headcount, all that kind of stuff. I get the feeling it will be set up under Paratici Enterprises Limited, and we'll be paying a fat salary on him with a load of bonuses, and he'll be walking around with Daniel and in the boardroom providing him advice and guidance and feedback. I do hope he walks around with a leash on Levy and kind of pulls him in when he starts making, Daniel type decisions that are a bit left field.
The only one that's ever had his ear, right? Everybody else.
Yeah.
I think the only one before that I can remember, and I was a younger lad back then, wasn't paying as close attention, but Frank Arneson seemed to have a lot of the attention of Daniel Levy and let him do his thing. And Frank Arneson, was very
for the 4 weeks that he was there.
Yeah, but he did bring in some interesting players and brought in some young, and that was the foundation of everything that's come since. So, and then obviously Chelsea came in and did what Chelsea do. But ever since then, I don't think any director of football's quite had the same level of attention, or whatever you want to call it, that Paratici has. Sorry, I've been criticised 7 times today. It's not Paratici, it's Paratici. I've been.
Of course it is. Yeah, I did
so many people have been like calling me out, going, "Sean, I love your content, mate, but just like one little thing, just get your name right, bro." Right. Sorry, Jim, I interrupted you, mate. Sorry, buddy.
No, let's see what the role is, but I don't think he's replacing Munn. I don't think it'll be that. I don't think it'll be that type of role, and I think it'll be a different type of role. It'll be consultancy. The club will have to keep arm's distance from him. Well, just protect themselves from him on an official employment status a bit, whilst ensuring he has access to the building, and Daniel is allowed to work with him and cooperate with him. So yeah, let's see. I think it's a good. I want him in the structure as long as he's not treading on the toes. And what the worst thing would be is he's like almost false chairman, because he's got Daniel's ear. He can influence him so much that Fab's calling all the shots, and Vin's going, goodness sake, like, I signed up to this to make the decisions around the football club, and Daniel keeps stepping in and making changes, but I know it's really Fab in his ear telling him I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
That would get quite toxic as
So
well.
what's the pecking order? Are we assuming that Scott Munn is going to leave?
Yes.
Are we thinking that Johan Lang is going to also depart then?
I don't think Lang would depart because his recruitment strategy is such a long-term one, and most of these young signings seem to have been pretty good. That I don't see why they would.
Failed. A lot of people say Lang's failed. I don't think he has. I think he's worked within a remit, and within that remit, he's delivered some good talent. Right?
Yeah, I think his remit was you have to sign players within this certain category. Here's the vision. Go do it. He doesn't have the choice. So, yeah, within that remit, he's done a good job if that's the case. But I can see why people would be.
Is Johan Lang going to have his? Is he going to be put out by Fabio returning? Because they probably have two different ways. Not that I have any idea about the how the two operate in reality, but Johan Lang likes to keep his cards close to his chest with the transfer stuff. He doesn't like any stories leaking. That was why it was a really boring January for us. That's why I took 3 weeks off. No, it's not. The shenanigans were the reason, but January was boring. Whereas Fabio Paratici is more than happy to go and like push rumors and spread spin plates and balls in the air and one lands or whatever. I just wonder whether they're just a little bit chalk and cheese. I would even extend that to the idea that is Johan Lang a little bit more new age? Like, is he more into the kind of data stuff? Whereas Fabio Paratici is a little bit old school, relationship based and nurturing kind of Italian football. Is there just like is it oil and water? I don't know.
I think in an ideal world, you'd have a setup where somehow Langer's building the scouting networks, the youth setup, the long-term transfer strategy, and Fab is focused a bit more on the now decisions with Levy. Maybe he's a part of the sign-off process for major decisions as well. It is hard to get it right when you've got so many big egos in big senior roles who all want the keys to the main decision. I don't think you can typically have more than one of those. It gets messy so quickly. But let's see. And we typically haven't built a great structure internally, have we, at Spurs? That's been our biggest issue, I think. We've
chaos at times, mate.
Been out of tape. Yeah.
And that's why, Drew, I'll come to you. How do you see it shaking up? Like, as of June the 1st, let's assume that Vinny's coming in. What's the pecking order around footballing decisions? Obviously, we don't know, but like, obviously, just
right. I mean,
not necessarily what do you expect. What would you like to see? What would you hope to see?
Well, again, I would hope to see there's some sort of that. I don't know if it's right for me to say for Levy to hand over the keys because that implies I feel like everything is Levy's fault, and there is a board that has to vote to make these decisions, right? So when I say Levy, I do mean like the club overlords in general. Again, I would like it to be a case of him giving somebody the keys and being like, look, this is, so long as you don't take us over the edge of a cliff, these are your budgetary restrictions. This is within reason what you're allowed to do. And I'd it's been implied that he just can't keep his nose out of things and he has to be the last guy to sign on the dotted line. And if that is the case, and that is the reason why deals have failed in the past, and that's the reason why we've not been able to get things over the line then I would like him to take the step back that he's kind of said that he would take. So if Paratici's coming in and he's got, just like Jim said, I would like him to have obviously the respect to Levy and be able to have discussions, but not to the detriment of Vinny coming in and then feeling like he's being worked around. So yeah, it would be a case of, Vinny is clearly knows what he's doing. I mean, that lot down the road have been pretty well run.
Is Vinny coming in? Like, is Vinny coming in as the footballing? I mean, I don't even know what Scott. I mean, in whatever it is, 2 years nearly, we've had 1 3-minute interview from Optus to get to know Scott Munn. Nothing else, right? Which is embarrassing.
I kind of feel like the way it goes in my head is and I think somebody mentioned it in the chat. I feel like Munn goes out, Vinny comes in, Langer goes out, Paratici comes in, and then there's Ange or whoever the next guy is. But to Jim's point, He's making a lot of very good points today. It's a very good guess, this guy, isn't he? But like, yeah, like maybe you do have to keep it at arm's length, and maybe it is still just going to be a consultancy vibe for a little while. Somebody also mentioned in the chat earlier, I think it was George C. Big up, that apparently there's some sort of court case on May 19th, and if found guilty, you could still face prison time. So I mean, I don't know. I guess there's so
what
many.
Are we doing here?
What are we doing? We're doing it again.
Doing it again.
It's just such a Spurs situation. Like, don't you feel like a Liverpool or a Man United or an Arsenal or whoever, they just wouldn't touch him now? I'm sorry, they'd say, I can see the value, but there's just too much risk there. We'll come back to this decision when it's a bit clearer. But it would be so Spurs to bring him in and then the next day him be gone again or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or him to get his hands involved in a deal that we're all excited about and then it'd be cancelled because, I don't know, we like inventing new ways of messing things up.
Yeah, you can see Paratici like in some port in Italy going, Daniel, come on the boat, the waters are lovely, and then it's just grey clouds and storms all like, no matter which direction you look, it's everywhere there is just grey, and like you just go, I don't know, Daniel's like, no, it's great. This guy's the best we've ever had, the best sailor ever. Yeah, but the clouds don't suggest that it's necessarily going to be a good sail, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know. If there's truth to the idea that he's got a court case in May and then he might go to prison, then maybe the whole thing that Graham Bailey's spinning is load of tosh. I can't believe Daniel Levy would get into bed with him twice if that was the case. But
no,
look, at the end of the day, I think it's fair to say that Daniel Levy has trusted him more than anyone else with regards to the youth team, at least, and he was responsible for that whole initial momentum. And obviously, you know, Johan Lang's come in and added a little bit more quality and sort of spice into that world since he's been here. And I think our young recruitment's been really good. You know, I think we have quietly gone about putting together the best youth-centric model outside of Manchester City and arguably Chelsea, I guess, maybe, in the last few years. So we shall see, guys. We shall see. But we've been going for 42 minutes, and we've got all of the transfer news to get through with you. So I do want to ask you guys before we move on to smash the like button, smash the subscribe, hit the notification bell, but also get over to Also Spurs. If you like Jim, if you love Jim like we do here on the Spurs Talk Show, then show your appreciation for that by clicking on the link in the title, and it will be in the description after the show. But get over to Jim. He's him and his team brilliant, and like I say, they get some crazy interviews that I don't know how you do it, mate. You find the perfect person at the perfect time for the perfect interview, and you're very good at doing them, mate. So you're a brilliant addition to the YouTube channel space. And obviously, Drew, do you have any? So you're on Twitter, aren't you?
All over the place. I mean, a tiny bit on. To be honest with you, I'm only on Twitter, so I can message you. I do a little bit. I do a little bit on Instagram, which involves stuff to do with my job and also a little bit of DJing, but nothing too crazy. I'm on Irish Hotspur, do pre-match on there, and then of course with my fellow admin Adrian, big up Adrian, I do Spurs Diehards Tottenham Till I Die on Fridays. So yeah, we'll have to get you on there one time.
Brilliant channels, Spurs Tottenham Diehards TTID, and also the Irish Hotspur. By the way, I found out today that Dave is coming to Bilbao. Should we get there? He's going via he's getting a boat from Ireland. 24 hours on a boat. Okay. I can't wait to see him. I'm seeing him at the Palace game as well. Dave's the best guy in the world. Such a sweet, sincere human being. Guys, let's move forward. Though. Look, come of the Don, come of the transfer. Right. It's a transfer link, and we got something to get through, right? So we've got some names here. Conor McGregor. I put McGregor in the title. Why have I put Conor McGregor in the title? It's not Conor McGregor. Conor Gallagher it should be, not McGregor. Conor Gallagher. This is harking back to last summer all over again. I wasn't even drunk. Conor Gallagher is the title link. I need to change that. The rumours are, guys, that Atletico Madrid haven't got the scratch for Romero. And so they're looking at finding ways to make it happen. Now, for what it's worth, player plus cash deals are increasingly rare because it's just too difficult to get all of the parties to agree to the same structural payments and the terms and the agents' fees and all those things that are capitalized. But on paper, Atletico Madrid, at least paper in the certain annals of journalism around the spot, Atletico Madrid want both Roddy Bentancur and they want Romero, and they don't have the scratch for both, so they're looking for ways to make it happen. And we got one guy in Rodrigo Riquelme that is one such option to look at. And of course, there's also the Conor Gallagher story. And listen, I've looked at Riquelme. I put the video about him earlier on. I really like this guy. I think he's got a lot about him, and his valuation doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Any thoughts on both of those, or the rumor in its entirety, boys? I'll start with you, Jim.
Yeah, with the Atletico links, we spoke to Ruri Barlow, who's editor for Football España, a couple of days ago, and he was explaining that Atletico are really keen on Romero, like you said, but the financial side, they are looking at these swap options. It's just not clear which of those players would actually be interested in Spurs. That's the other thing. Like, they may say, Conor Gallagher, here you go. Tottenham, we need you to be part of this deal. And he may say, absolutely not. Like he did when he played for Chelsea. He went, I'm not remotely interested. I can't imagine that suddenly changed. So I can't see that. As for the others, it's so hard to say, because I think when you've got a position where you're so uncertain on who your manager is going to be next year, like we said, it could be Ange, it could not be. That's completely your opinion, but it would be, I think, high risk to commit to such a massive move in selling Romero and getting one or two of those players in exchange until that manager's confirmed. That would be a huge decision for us, especially when Romero's got 2 years left on his contract. So Madrid can't afford him either, by the sounds of it. And the feedback from Ruri was that is because they typically, this is an unknown thing people often don't, it's publicly known, it's on the internet, and you probably know, Sean, you're known for smashing the finance side of these things. Real Madrid are one of the other few clubs in the top 10 revenue in Europe that keep below 50% of their revenue onto wages. People look at Real Madrid and they often go, they must be getting 80% plus. No, they keep it very similar to us. Very, very low on that front.
Their revenue is about 800 million rather than 500 million, and they've got a brand new stadium which is going to just make it like, it's not like they've got £150,000. These people, Vinny Jr. is not earning 150 grand a week like our best players are. They just have the differences, and that's what people forget. Right? People think that there's the ratio that we look at and we talk about all the time is not driven by a numerator and a denominator. So when your revenue goes up, if your costs stay the same, your ratio goes down. That's how it works.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, there's context to the number, but Real Madrid obviously have a ridiculous denominator, and that is that's only going to get bigger with their stadium being as brilliant as it is.
And that's a great. Yeah. And people also forget that the budget is a combination. It's not like one pot for wages and one pot for transfer fees and your expenditure separated as line items. It's a combination of expenditure, and that allows them to then drop massive transfer fees every now and again when they want to, because they've got the flexibility to do that and amortize those big ones. But where I was going is they've obviously recently brought in 2 players on enormous wages, and it's unlikely they're going to do that for a 3rd season in a row. So his thought was they'll wait until the season after next if he's still available. He's also not the typical age profile he expects them to go for right now. They, like even Mbappe, is a younger player. So it's probably not going to be in line with the strategy. So it would be Atletico of anyone in Spain, in his view. So it's kind of going back to a question, who though? Do you think Conor Gallagher?
Do you think Atletico Madrid? I've read, but I don't know, mate. The guy you spoke to seems to be very, very much on the pulse of what's happening. Did he suggest that Atletico Madrid don't have the money as well, or did he say that that they can make it work?
Well, he suggested that 70 million was too steep, and that's what we would be looking at as a minimum.
Interesting.
So that was too steep. It'll be out tomorrow. You can rewatch. I can't remember if he said that was like his sources or if that's just his opinion. We'll have to. I'll read it, watch it back, and remind myself of that. But he thought that was too steep, so he felt that they would be putting forward still a large bid and then offering up players in exchange. The challenge is Atletico do pay big wages as well to their players. So the challenge is when they go to sell those players, they're not going to take a pay cut to join Spurs because they want to buy a different player. So I don't know what Gallagher's on, but would we bring in Conor Gallagher and basically get a much better Ollie Skip and whack him on 200 grand a week? I don't think so.
That's
Ollie
Skip plus Ollie Skip on steroids. Yeah,
Ollie Skip, you have great hair and everything else, but
good looking boy, good looking wife. I mean, look, Ollie Skip, Conor Gallagher. For me, if we wanted him, we should have got him 2 years ago when Ange Ball was a new thing. I feel like are we really going to go after this guy when we don't even know if Ange is going to be here, Drew?
I don't think so, and I think the guy's Chelsea through and through. I just don't think he's. It's just not going to happen. He didn't. So, like Jim said again, he said no to us then. He's not going to say yes to us now. You know what I mean? Maybe come to me first, one of these, and then you know what I mean.
I actually came to you first on the previous question, then I went to Jim, then I came back to you, and you went, "Yeah, just like Jim said, yeah."
Yeah. No, it's very true. It's very true. Do you know what? Here's the thing: there's so many ways that this could turn out. Right? You could have Ange stays, we qualify for Champions League. Ange stays, we don't qualify for the Champions League. Ange goes, we qualify. Ange goes, we don't qualify. Like, I can see a scenario. I mean, I get everyone's point with Romero, and I have been a little bit on the fence with the guy. But if we really, really want to be the team that we want to be, you don't push guys like that out the door. And I just wonder, with this new regime potentially coming in, I mean, he signed for us when we didn't have European football. Maybe there's a chance we get another dedicated year out of him. It might suit all parties to just have another year with him and then get 40 million for him next year. I just, who you going to get? Who comes in
Jonathan
that's
Tah.
really, really as good as him?
No one comes in as good as him unless you pay the big money, and that would require. I don't even think. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of Mark Gahey. I think he's a good player, but I'm not I'm not on the same page as half the fan or 3/4 of the fan base who think that Mark Gahey is like, the next Ledley King. Sorry, just don't see it. I see Bozo genes all day long. He's solid and he's capable and he's a good player and he's English and he's homegrown and I can get it. I can get on board it. I've got no problem if we sign him. But if you're talking 60, 70 million quid for a guy who's got 1 year left on his contract when we only got 100 million circa for Harry Kane, dream world. Not interested. Not interested at all. For me, the most logical thing in a world, and you're not going to sign Jonathan Tah if you don't qualify for the Champions League. He'll go to one of the other suitors. So, and Manchester United are one of the other suitors. And presuming that Tottenham get there, we can also assume that Man United are going to be in the final because they're 3-0 up. It's going to be difficult for, Bilbao don't have a striker really at the moment. Like, so can you see them scoring 3 goals or 4 goals? I can't. So you can basically make the assumption that United are going to be there. If Tottenham do get there, then one of those two teams are going to have Champions League football, Champions League money. Both of those teams are going to look for Jonathan Tah. And so if Tottenham win, then I think that Tottenham can get him. And that, to me, again, I always make this caveat, free transfers are not free transfers. You're still going to give 70% of the money in some direction. It's just not going to the selling club. But he, to me, is a beast of a player. He's fast, he's quick, he's tenacious, he's got a strong tackle. He doesn't have a rashness to him like that Romero does. Yeah, he doesn't come with the pedigree, doesn't come with the World Cup winners, accolades, all that stuff. But whilst I feel like Mark Gahey isn't as good as people think he is, I also don't think that Christian Romero is as good as people think he is. I think Romero's got a lot of weaknesses to his game. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's the best player. I don't even think he's the best centre-back at our club, let alone the best centre-back or one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League. I think he's one of the best passers in the Premier League, but he's not that great in the air. His positional play isn't fantastic. His availability is. Do
you not think recently, like, because Dave Harris made a really good point this morning that he actually feels like he's been getting better in the air, and I had to kind of think about that for a second. And I've got to be honest, if I look back over the last few games, like whenever he's played, one of the first heads on, like, offensively and defensively. I sound American. Bloody hell, fuck. In the forward line. In the forward line and defensively, like, he seems to be there quite a lot. Like, he wins a lot of defensive headers, and he could do with scoring a few more goals. Like, he gets into positions. I don't know, man. I had to rethink. I don't know if Dave Harris is just a really good salesman on Romero.
Which Dave Harris? Irish Dave or Dave? The guy lives in Australia?
Irish Dave.
Yeah, but Dave absolutely worships the ground that Ron Bomb lives on. You know?
maybe.
You know,
Well, is there? I tell you what, then. Can I ask? Is there a scenario? Because I feel like if we get into the Champions League, there's every chance he signs a new deal, especially with the potential Paratici coming back. But let's say if we don't, and he does decide to go, is there an argument that we've already bought in Danzo, Dragusin's due to come back, he may do better in a slightly different system. We've also got Vuskovic coming in. You've also got Dorrington, who's actually not doing too bad in Scotland and has got himself into a cup final. So could we actually make do with what we've got in the defensive line, obviously needing to get another left back, but that money could really do further up the field? No? Am I no? Jim's no. See, I make bad points. Jim makes good points.
No. I don't have what you're saying. I'm listen. Just really quick. I'm more than happy if the money's tight, like it's been. I don't believe it is, but if it is, like it's been reported, I'm more than happy to raise money through a Romero sale. Sorry, Jim, carry on, mate.
No, I was agreeing. Drew got me thinking there. Like it's and this is where we've made mistakes before. It's prioritization of where to spend the money when you're a Tottenham is super. Oh, my camera's gone there. I have to restart. Is super important because I'm gonna go again. Because we don't have the money to overhaul to the extent of Real Madrid or a Chelsea can in one single window, and we won't do it. We're too risk adverse for that, and that may well be a good thing. But if we go into next season with selling Romero and not replacing him, I think that's a classic example of why we are always in the situations we find ourselves in, just falling short of where we want to be. And I'm not saying I want to see Spurs go and drop £100 million on another centre back. I just don't think we can compete for those type of players. Mm-hmm. If a player is worth £100 million and that is their true value, and Real Madrid, Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal have said, I'm not going to bother bidding for them, even though they are worth £100 million, then I get it why we should bid for those players. I don't want my camera. I need to fix that in a sec.
There's probably a reason why, right?
But there's got to be a reason why. So yeah. I'm not saying that's the answer, like go and drop £100 million. But I think if we don't make an attempt to bolster up that area, we're just doing what Tottenham does. And then you get really excited to start the season, a couple of injuries, and we're back to where we started. I think you've got to look at, if you sell Romero for 70 million, doing some really clever transfer business to bring in an excellent centre-back for the replacement for 30 or 40, and then
who would that
getting
be?
the second player with what's left. You've got to turn that one sale into two opportunities.
Yeah, I don't disagree with either what you're saying there. Just so you know, mate, I'm agreeing with both of you.
I think Drew's spot on.
But I'd like to know who for me, Jonathan Tah, he's a free transfer. Like, we've got the wiggle room in the wages. You can organise deals with the agent around the payment structure that you don't have to have the complexity of, like you do if you're buying a player from a club who doesn't really want to sell. Then they have their own best interests at heart with regards to the structure of that payment. How much up front, how much over how long, and all those sorts of things. When you're dealing with a player and his agent, as long as they know that they're getting theirs, then if you could pitch to them, again, Paratici style or whoever else, if you could pitch to them, look, you're going to get yours over the course of the contract. Don't worry about it. But right now, money's tight. Do you mind if we only give you 10% finder's fee up front, and we'll give you the other 90% with a heavier front, like a heavier late load? Because look, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We need that money to go and help, not just bring in Jonathan, but bring in someone else who is going to help us achieve what Jonathan wants next year, as much as the rest of the clip and the fans do as well, which is a better team and better successes. So as long as they're going to get theirs over the 5-year deal or the 4, whatever, then I don't see why there would be a problem doing that. Whereas you don't have that luxury if you're dealing with selling clubs who need their own. They're like, no, I need 50% up front because I've got to go and replace whoever with this guy, and that club's not going to want to do it, and so it just becomes more complex, right? And so I feel like Jonathan Tah would be a very a very very suitable replacement. I don't think he's as good with the ball at his feet as Romero is. I think he's better in the air. I think he's faster. I think he's got less injury issues. I think he has a consistency to his game that is more reliable. Dependability is the third best ability. And, to me, that is, that's worth its weight. And I again, the alternative name that we hear about all the time, guys, is Mark Gahey. And I just sit there and look at Mark Gahey and think, is he really worth the money that Crystal Palace are asking? I'd say no. I'd even make the argument that if they lift the FA Cup, although it will be unlikely against City, if they do, does Mark Gahey want to leave Palace to come to, to go anywhere else? And if he does, Tottenham are not going to be the only people that are searching for him. Newcastle are as well, allegedly, and Newcastle, I think, are a bigger draw at the moment than Tottenham are, just based on the fact that they've got a manager. They're settled. They're moving in the right direction. They have owners with big ambitions. They have very recent success behind them. The wind is in Newcastle's sails. I don't think that Tottenham really can convince Mark Gahey to come to them over Newcastle unless staying in London is a big deal to Mark Gahey.
Yeah. I think you're spot on about Newcastle being a bigger draw, by the way. And that's not a dig at Spurs. I'm often told I'm too positive and optimistic about Spurs. I just mean it in the sense that the people underestimate the lure and importance of if Newcastle, like I've said this before, if Newcastle bid for Isaac and Tonali under Mike Ashley with the exact same offers they made to those players to get them, and they were in the same position in the league, those players would not have joined Newcastle. They would not even, they'd have laughed in Newcastle's faces and walked out the door. They joined because Newcastle are owned by a state, and the vision of that state is to make Newcastle the biggest football club on the planet, and they have the resources to endlessly throw at it to make that happen. That's why they joined Newcastle, not for where they were then and the bid that was made then. They're bought into the potential of that movement and all the money that comes of it as an afterfact of that. We're now competing with not just those Liverpools and the Man Cities. We're competing with the Aston Villas and the Newcastles with that kind of ambition behind their
100%.
owners.
And maybe on a lesser scale, Nottingham Forest might not necessarily be. I mean, Nottingham Forest have got like a 9 out of 10 hit rate with their transfers over the last 18 months. Imagine what they could do if they had the £80 million additional budgets that come from Champions League qualification. It looks like they're not going to make it now because they've fallen off the cliff in the last couple of games. But ultimately, I look at Nottingham Forest and think, you can make the same argument for teams like Bournemouth and other teams that might be qualifying for Europe or whatever else that are still got in the hunt there, not for Champions League but for Europa League, which would be great steps for them. I just look at those teams and think that they have a better hit rate with their transfer strategy, and so more money, if they can continue the success rate, equals stronger threats. And that's why I always say, like, people that look at Tottenham and only diagnose our issues internally and insularly, I think that they're missing a big trick. I think that you have to also factor in what's happening externally to Tottenham, because they're all moving targets, and most of those targets are moving in the right direction at the moment. And there's very few teams that I look at in the Premier League where I think that they're in worse shape than us or moving in as bad a direction as we have seemingly moved in the last 24 months.
Exactly.
And maybe Manchester United is the only team that you can really put up there in that category.
Because we could make 3 amazing decisions tomorrow. That doesn't stop Newcastle making 4 amazing decisions. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can be jogging forward, doing all, and I think we are. We have a long-term blueprint for growth that is working, and it makes complete sense in the world of what Daniel Levy can achieve with his strengths and his background and what he has in his control. But that doesn't mean other people aren't also moving forward with strategies that are also working, but at a faster pace because of different circumstances that are outside of our control and that we can't influence. We cannot control states seeing football as an opportunity to support them in their wider initiative to drive growth for their countries through sports washing and the benefits that come to it through that. And that is just a far more aggressive strategy and reason for growth than I'm going to build some hotels, build a bigger stadium because I want Tottenham to remain competitive so I can make money off the sale of the football club at some point. Like, we still want to get there, but you're competing against a macro landscape which has changed, and we're looking at a little micro landscape, and we could be doing the right stuff. We are doing the right stuff, but other clubs are able to operate more quickly and aggressively because of stuff outside of our control.
100%. A lot of that. You look at Aston Villa. You look at what happened with the fella who I forget his name. My mind's gone blank. The guy who went for 70 million quid to Saudi Arabia, who was 21 years old last
John
summer.
Duran.
John Duran, thank you, Drew. And then now you're seeing links with Saudi Arabia towards Emi Martinez and Bailey. And you just kind of go, you know what's going to happen there, right? You know that those prices are going to be inflated. You know that that's just you scratch my back, we'll scratch yours. It is what it is, right? But again, I don't know how you can curtail that, because you can't put limitations on the valuations of players based on someone else's predetermined idea of what that player's worth, right? The player values in the eye of the beholder. Drew, I want to come to you, mate, as we move forward with the. It's a great conversation, by the way, guys. I really enjoyed it so far. Really enjoyed it. Super chat from Sean Gooners Layer.
Sean Gooners. Legend. He's a legend, is Sean.
I thought it was Gooners Layer. I was like, oh, you in the dungeon, are you? Okay.
He's brilliant.
Sean Goodness Slayer. Paratici picked Nuno and Conte, and in my opinion, none of them are Spurs managers. Yeah, but I think wasn't Nuno like 6th choice? I think it was like we'd gone through a few other options as well. There was another Italian player, manager, Gattuso was it, who universally the Tottenham fans went, don't want that geezer. He's a nutcase and not a nice person. So yeah, I take your point though. Yeah, Paratici did pick those guys, and Paratici also suggested other people that Tottenham fans universally rejected. So maybe Paratici's not as good with his managerial selections as he has been with some of his player selections. He was trying to get Luis Diaz, and what a success that story was for Liverpool. But obviously we got gazumped by them in the last few minutes. But he went after Decky, he went after Bentancur. I don't really think there's been too many flops. Obviously, Brian Hill was a mistake. But yeah, I think Paratici overall has probably had a 7.5 out of 10 in terms of hit rates. Drew, would you agree?
Yeah, I would say so. Certainly better than Steve Hitchin. Most would agree.
Yeah, that guy. It's interesting because I think there is a legitimate argument around Daniel Levy. Some people say he never backs a manager. I think he does back people, but the people that he's backed have probably been he's backed the wrong horses. He's got he goes to Goodwood or to the Cheltenham Festival and seems to put all his money on the horses that fall at the first hurdle at times. And the ones where he could go big and should have gone big, maybe he hasn't done. But we'll hope that will change in the future. El Dante as well, just quickly, member for 12 months. Thank you so much for the loyalty, mate. I really appreciate you. Good evening all. Hope everyone's happy and healthy. That was from a while back. Appreciate you, mate. Drew, I want to move forward the conversation to some of these other links, mate. There's more links out tonight, as I say, with the return of the Don. I like to rub my hands together because it gives me something to get out of bed every morning and go, what are we doing today? What are we doing now? We're doing it again. There's more. And there's already been 5 or 6 today. Tyler
Dude,
Dybling.
there's more links than an Essex dance floor, I'm telling you.
More links than Billericay High Street on a Friday night.
Crikey, let's do it. You got the old can on, mate. You got the old can on.
Shout out to Links, by the way. I'm a big fan of Links.
Shout out. If you want to sponsor this show.
If you want to sponsor, you know where you find me. Well, maybe you can't. Send me an email, but send an email to Drew just in case I get locked.
Yeah, exactly. I'll bet it as well. Make sure there's no backward R's and shit like that in there.
There we go.
Them Rushkies.
Let's get back into some of these links, mate. Tyler Dybling, back on the nose tonight. Tottenham apparently front runner, top of the list, top of the line, top of the attention sphere for Tyler Dybling. I'm going to throw a few at you here as well, mate. He's obviously 21 years old. I think 21. Maybe he's even 20. He might be even younger than that. Shot onto the scene this year. Done really good things. Southampton, though, holding out for serious money for him. At the same time, we are linked with Garnacho of Manchester United fame and Christoph Nkunku, the man who came to Chelsea and then spent 6 months out with, I think it was ligament injuries. A real talent, though, from his days.
ACL, wasn't it?
Was it an ACL? I think it was an ACL.
Maybe.
Yeah, look, I don't know how strong these links are, but it appears as though Tottenham are looking for a forward. Tottenham are looking for maybe a versatile forward, maybe a specifically wide forward. And a lot of these links, some of them are right wingers, but the majority of them at the moment seem to be left wingers. And it brings me back to this kind of notion of have we got too many? Is it quantity over quality? Do we have the right makeup of winger at the moment? And it all comes back to this idea of like, how do you spend what you have? Right? Are we going to be guilty of misspending whatever precious budgets we have, Drew? If we go and, I don't know, take up the option on Matisse Tell, if we let go of Sonny, is that the right call? I just think there's too much going on, but I don't know if we've got a settled front three. I don't think the front three have been fantastic this year. I don't think any of them have been great. And I think it's problematic, but I don't know really what the right solution is with regards how you move forward. So include that in your answer and then talk about the names I just mentioned, Garnacho and Nkunku and Dybling.
Well, I'm just looking at the chat as well, and it's like, would prefer Garnacho over those. Garnacho is horrible. Garnacho is crap. And then Dybling's 19 and Kunku's a flop. Dybling's worth 10 quid. I don't know. And here's the thing, right?
Never a happy chat. There's never a happy chat, mate. And the chat is always like Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Yeah, and big up to everyone. It's certainly not a criticism. And while you're at it, just certainly smash the like as well. Do you know what? Here's the thing. Like, I would take, given what I've seen of Tell over the last few weeks, I wouldn't be opposed to a renegotiation for another loan with obligation for 30, 35 mil, something like that. Like, that would be sort of a deal I'd look to try and get done. If it was any more than that, then I'm sorry, I'm kind of not interested.
So you see something in him, but you don't see enough to justify anything like what they're asking.
No. And I would need to see it more consistency. Like, I'd need to see at least another 6 months, but you're not going to do a 6-month loan. So I'd like another a year with
what is he lacking at the moment? Because I see what I do see from him is the same sort of thing that I saw in the early stages of Lucas Berghvall, which is a young player that's desperate to get on the ball, that has immense confidence in themselves, and that works incredibly hard. And for a winger to work incredibly hard off the ball is kind of rare. And sometimes it's unnecessary. Sometimes you don't need to work that hard. I often describe this to Dom Solanke. He runs down dead alleys pressing for days, but if the rest of the team aren't pressing with you, then it's wasted effort, right? And you can then miss out on the opportunity. But for me, I look at the Matisse Tell. I see something. I have absolutely no issues with his work ethic. I have no issues with his belief. I have no issues with his desire to get on the ball. It's just the output missing for me.
Yeah, and I mean, also, you got to take into account, like, we had the benefit of buying Berghvall and being able to take a big, deep breath because people were saying, give it 6 months, give it 6 to 8 months, and you'll start seeing the rewards. And we're reaping the rewards, and there isn't any panic because he's under a nice long contract, which he's now extended. The problem with Tell, and I think some of the perception is that, we don't have the luxury. We were in a position at the time when he came in where we really needed somebody more coming in to hit the ground running. The club didn't do that. We ended up with Tell, who, by the way, hadn't played nearly any football for the beginning of the entire season. So we're essentially warming him up. The reason I want another year is because I don't think we don't have the luxury, obviously. The loan is coming towards the end, and I think we're seeing enough to make me think that there's actually a player there. And like you say, the work rate off the ball is, especially in a winger, is something that you need. I think we've maybe had a little bit more balance with him being over on that side. I'm getting a little bit excited, and I wouldn't want the last 6 months to be in earnest just to let him go off and do something else for somebody else. Correct. So I think we should at least have the wherewithal to say, give us another year with him and let's see what we can do. And we'll give you, 35, maybe going up to 40 or a 20% sell on or, something like that. Because again, to your point, we need to get creative. So I don't want to be a club that bleeds somebody else's players for them. Like, that's not what we should be about. So yeah, I see a player there. As far as the Garnacho links, I'm not sure. I just think we need to be clever with what we do with the youngsters, and I think we need to bring in a couple of players that have been there and done it to nurture these kids, because I just don't think there's enough. And I think here's one of the things with Ange, people get frustrated because he goes one way and then he goes the other. And I can understand that from the point of view at the very beginning of last season. He said he wanted youngsters because the people, players that are kind of long in the tooth, it's hard to mould them. And then it comes to January and he says he wants some experience. So, sort of which one is it? But I think this squad is crying out for a couple of been there and done it. Because we've got a lot of this youth that just, I think, need somebody to look up to a little bit. I think Johnson would be a better player if we had somebody ahead of him in the pecking order that was a bit more, 27, 28-year-old that had, 100 more games under him. But yeah,
it's
I think that's it.
About Johnson. I think he's like the literally like the negative version of a photograph of a Matisse Tell in terms of input and output. I think that Matisse Tell's got everything with the input, but as of yet, none of the output and the work rate. And Brennan Johnson is just the entire opposite. Like, doesn't do anything really, but he's always there when you need it, banging the ball.
Is that? I can't believe that a guy can be in the squad consistently and continue to put on that type of performance if it isn't some way suggested by the coach that you need to stay out there and just not. I can't explain.
I hear you on that. I asked that question the other day. I think that you're right. I think that has to be a directive. Otherwise, you're letting the guy get away with murder.
Jim, what do you think?
What for the Johnson part specifically?
Yeah,
everything.
Reverse engineer it. Start with Johnson and come back into the Matisse Tell and then these transfers.
Johnson, I think he's got. I would think we'd be crazy to rush selling a player with that level of output, but we'd also be crazy to go into next season with him as our first choice right winger. I think he's got that level of output. A lot of people say he doesn't contribute defensively, he doesn't run at players enough, and other parts of the game he isn't contributing enough. That is true, but 17 goals definitely softens those drawbacks, doesn't it?
17 in the Premier League as well, isn't it? Is that 17 across all?
I think it's all.
17 across all.
It's all.
How many assists has he got?
It's over 20 goal contributions, isn't it? So, and he's one of only 10 players in the top 5 leagues. Is that right? To be in that camp. So
his output's undeniable. You can't hate the output.
So where I'm going with that is, everyone's completely right. He doesn't do enough in other areas, and he's not as good if you looked at those goals as those goals represent in isolation. But he's nowhere near as bad as people are saying. He's dreadful. Get him out my club. Yeah. I think the reality is just somewhere in the middle, that he's a very useful player for a place in the squad if you've got that level of output. But you definitely need a different profile of player as another option, probably ahead of him in the pecking order. It's like, if his contribution is 21 goals and assists in a season, well, if you had a player who was better defensively and contributes to the team in other ways, is their net contribution to the team 21 goals in terms of how much they prevent, by being good defensively and also provide going forward?
Case in point, Dom Solanke versus a Richalison, right? Does Dom Solanke hasn't got the numbers that you would have hoped for, but in terms of effort, in terms of contribution, I would make the argument that a lot of his work is rewarded in the stats that Brennan Johnson has created, for example.
If Brennan Johnson had a Mario Balotelli's personality and that swagger, people would go, look at this guy, all the talent in the world, just taps at him when he wants. Yeah, he's lazy, but whatever. Look at him, he's bringing in goals when we need them. We don't build a team around him, but that's a good thing to have in the squad. Useful player. He'll pop up in a cup semi-final like he did and get a key goal that we need, which he did. And he might do in the second leg, and he might do if we get to the final. So why rush to sell a guy? You're not going to get your money back. Why rush and sell him? I just think we should always be looking to improve the squad, even when you've got good players. And I think he's a good player at what he does.
But on that basis, then, Jim, before I ask about Matisse Tell, I'll let you come back to Matisse Tell. But on that basis, if you're saying, don't sell but add, and then you factor in the numbers of players that we've got lurking around those positions, right? Decky can play out there if needed. Micky Moore can play maybe both sides, but maybe on the left. You've got Sonny, you have Matisse Tell, which we're going to come to, Odebear. is there space for another name to come in, or does one have to leave before you can bring someone else in?
Well, yeah, because there's players that need to go on loan and others that will be sold. Like Brennan, like as I said, I don't think Brennan Johnson is some like world class player. I know some people saying a load of shite or whatever. He's rubbish. Like I'm sorry, you do not contribute to 21 goals in the Premier League if you are rubbish at playing football, and you can't perform at that level because the output is quite literally there. And whether we want to overly analyze this or not, or underanalyze it, you win the game by putting the ball over the white line more than the other team. And how you do that is where we get really in the weeds. But if he does that 21 times a season, he's not terrible. But I can completely understand why you need better at Tottenham for certain situations. And why the cameras grew on there again.
Brennan Johnson, the Elgato camera of Jim.
Yeah, I think so. It's overheated apparently because my room's so hot.
Does a job, but it could do better.
Yeah, but like who else do you like? Micky Moore needs a loan, I think.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Let's go run with that. Go for it. Yeah.
I would loan Micky Moore out with a clause that you can bring him back. Like, why do we have to always be the experiment? Like we're a big enough club to pass the burden of nurturing a player who's not ready but got a high ceiling. There's someone else until they've reached a certain level that they are ready. So let's. I don't know what he's doing now. I have to fix it. But
do you loan him out to it? Like, if you loan him out to a championship team, he's yeah. I mean, how does that look? Or if you loan him out to a Premier League team, does that come with an option or an obligation? And if so, are you risking giving up the golden goose there? Because for everyone, for all intents and purposes, he's considered to be the biggest thing since sliced bread, right?
I'd put him in the championship and have a clause where in 6 months we can take him back. If he's doing really well, and bringing him back could mean you loan him out then to a Premier League club because he's proved he's too good for that level, or whatever. It just gives you all those options. I don't see the upside in having him as a third choice winger in our squad at that age. I just don't really see the upside there. I think that is the one I would make room in the squad for. I think we're in a great position to negotiate a way better deal on him. Like it's all in the media. Like, we don't need to pay the 50, 60 million. They're not expecting it. No one else is rushing to sign him. Why not just chuck in a much lower bid? And if we get it accepted, I reckon what we'll do is we'll say, we'll have another loan with an option. Thank you. That would be the ideal out. That would be. I
don't disagree. Actually, I think I forget the lady's name. I saw it a minute ago in the chat. She brought up. I'm guessing it's a she. I shouldn't presume. Not anymore, anyway. She said, I forget the name. I forget who it was. But if you're still watching, chime back in and say it was me. It was suggested that with regards to Romero, that Atletico Madrid doesn't have to be the only option, right? That Bayern Munich, well, they've lost Eric Dyer, is going to Monaco, right? They haven't really fallen in love over there with Kim Min-jae. Is there an angle here where we can utilize that relationship with regards to Romero and go, you can have Romero, right? And if Romero wants to go, let's utilize Bayern Munich, but let's obviously treat their players not like they are Harrods Tupperware, where you're paying 50 quid for a plastic box, but where you treat them on the fair valuation of what they are and what they contribute. And with that, you can bring in, there's a few players at Bayern Munich that I think Tottenham would look at. I mean, Sane, right? He's class. The DM who I know. I know he wants Spain, not Germany, but I'm sure he hasn't. He might want Spain, but listen, at the end of the day, if Atletico Madrid haven't got the money, do you want to go and win things, or do you want to stay at Tottenham, or is it Spain or bust? And if it's Spain or bust, and if the other clubs haven't got the money, then you have to wait until you get your chance. At the end of the day, we're not going to just give you over for pennies in the pound. I just wonder whether or not there might be something there, because Bayern Munich do have a lot of players, right? They've got that number 6. What's wrong with my brain? Who's the number 6?
Kimmich.
Josh Kimmich, right?
He just signed a new deal, didn't he? I think.
I know he did. He did sign a new deal. He signed a deal in January for 5 years, but that doesn't mean anything. But that might be protecting the asset, right? So I'm just saying, we think outside the box here. Joined up thinking. Tottenham needs specific players, specific leaders, specific things in specific positions, and Bayern Munich have got a lot of talent. Yeah. And I just wonder whether that's an idea that we could lean into. Pellegrini, another one. Yeah, Pellegrini, another one. Yeah.
There's definitely value, I think, and I think an injury that was really underrated in recent seasons by us was the loss of Perisic. Like, having one or two of those type of players in the squad, like, they're not good enough for Real Madrid now. I always dreamt, and it was never going to happen, but of bringing Modric back last season when there was rumours he was going to go. And just, you're not going to start every week, but wow, that's the kind of player you want in around. So you want one or two of those mid-30s, been at the top, won the lot, still super driven, but doesn't have the legs to do it every week anymore. And the parent club's moved on. And we're like, no transfer fee. Here's some big wages once more. Still top level. Yeah, come see it. Come see the sunset in the Premier League with us. I'd like to see one or two of those. And then I'd like to see
kind of want something like the kids look up to, are like almost in awe of, right, Jim? Like they walk past and go, bloody hell, it's him.
Yeah, exactly. You know? I remember seeing when we first got Perisic, the big yes moment was when Sessegnon came on and messed up a pass, and Perisic jumped off the seat, sprint down the touchline, grabbed him, and started pointing and instructing what he should have done. I'm like, that's, it's not the manager doing it sometimes. It's that leader who knows and can just, and then pats him on the back and reassures him it's all right. And then you get one or two of those who don't eat into transfer budget. We've got the room in the wage budget. And then you've got, like Sean said, like a Sané or someone like that, like one signing that's not going to be stupidly expensive, but they're on the fringes of that big club. They want more playing time. Maybe Spurs is that option for them. And they're not a teenager. So you've got three senior players.
Bad relationship to have. It's not a bad relationship. As long as you don't go to the negotiating table in awe of who they are and think that you have to overpay. And one thing I would give Daniel Levy is the credit that he doesn't see anybody as above him in the negotiation stakes. Right? He sees everything as a zero-sum game. But I just look at that. Whoever it was who put that comment in the chat, I hadn't thought of it that way. Maybe there's an angle there that Bayern Munich will probably need a new centre back. And yes, maybe Romero said he wants to play in Spain, but sorry, bro, you don't always get what you want. If the Spanish guys haven't got the money, then do you want to go somewhere and win? If so, if Tottenham want the place for you, then so be it. But maybe Germany's not a bad stepping stone for you before you get to Real Madrid in 5 years' time. If you're that good, I don't think you are, but if you are that good, then maybe Bayern Munich would be a decent compromise, and then Tottenham can leverage that and see if there's a few players in the Bayern Munich squad that would be a good fit.
Well, sure. Anyone with a net worth of over a few million quid, you don't get an interview with them without them being prepped on an agenda, all the questions, and them probably having set up that interview. So I feel like that whole
Have you asked, mate? Have you asked? Have you reached out to Tottenham and seen if you can get a Daniel Levy interview? I'm sure you have, right?
If I put a cold call into Romero's agent and get hold of them, like when we tried, I do this kind of stuff in the day job as well. And Agato are really pushing this advertisement and they're doing a really freaking good job by sabotaging my camera live on here. But there is no way on earth Romero went into that interview without him being a part of setting it up, knowing what the questions were going to be and knowing what his answers were going to be before, with an ulterior motive in mind. And I know what you're saying about, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy if Madrid and Atletico said not interested, Bayern said we are. He's not going to be like, oh, I was completely set on the Sangrias. No chance. He's going to see that as a step up, right?
I think when Bayern Munich come calling, most players are okay with the idea of going there, aren't they? Boys, we've been going for an hour and a half, so there's only, I think we covered Garnacho and Nkunku, but Drew, you said both of those you're not really interested in, right? Is that right? Is that your takeaway there?
I mean, to be honest, I'd rather go for a Brian and Wemo.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, like if we're just like sort of throwing out names. I mean, I just don't think I've seen.
There'll be so many names this summer. I can't imagine for a second and Bremo's not going to be on that list. And I can't wait to drop some clickbait headlines for you people. It's on. Bremo to Spurs is close.
Yeah, as I say, they're not really names that really kind of do it for me, because I just don't think I've seen enough in them to be the players that I need to see come in to kind of grab other players by the scruffs of their necks and kind of push them on. Like they seem a bit more like, to use your phrase, they seem more like show ponies than workhorses.
Right. Yeah. I'm not overly enamored with any of those links. Even Conor Gallagher, Conor McGregor. I'm looking for someone with a bit of fight in him, but less whiskey, more frisky.
Brilliant.
But guys, listen, we'll leave it there. I hope Jim can still hear us in the background.
I can hear you. It's just the camera's overheated and I don't know why. Sorry about
That's
this.
okay, mate. No worries, buddy. No worries. It's been great. Listen, guys, it's been absolutely sensational having you on. Look forward to doing more of these with you. Drew, I'll let you to plug the various channels in which you are a part of, and I hope you would include the Spurs Talk Show in that, mate. You're a very, very welcome guest, as always, mate, and you're the best moderator.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Sean. Yes, as always, big up to the chat. Much appreciated. Everyone's opinions, everyone's questions, everyone's just insights. It's been awesome. Smash the like, subscribe. You can catch me tomorrow, Irish Hotspur, for the pre-game. You can also catch me and my cohort, Adrian, on Spurs Die Hards, Tottenham Till I Die. I host or co-host with him on Fridays. That goes out at 10 p.m. UK time. That would be, don't even know the times of my own show now. 10 p.m. UK, which is 4 p.m. Central US. So, yeah, you can find me on there. I appreciate it, Sean.
Mate, always great to have you on, mate. Great insights as always, buddy. And love your calm demeanor. It's fantastic, mate. Well, I feel like when I talk with you guys, it's more like, whereas when it's me and Johnny, it's like, no, wait a minute. That's also fun. I love joining the pieces. He'll be back tomorrow. Me and Johnny will be back tomorrow for a show after. He's going to the Upton Park, to the London Stadium for the game. So expect a show from us here in the evening to reflect on whatever happened during the game. And actually, sorry, Drew, before I finish up with Jim downstairs, what's your score prediction for tomorrow?
I will go for 1-1. I'll go for 1-1. Yeah.
And Drew?
2-2.
Sorry, actually, I meant Drew.
Going for a Desmond.
A Desmond 2-2?
Yeah.
Love that. Both of you clearly don't really rate our chances, but you're not quite confident enough to say what you really want to say. I hear.
Dude, I've been saying we need to put on performances, but these lot have been mudding me for weeks. I said I honestly, I shit you not, I said 10, 13 games ago. I reckon, well, now we've got everyone back, we'll go the rest of the season unbeaten.
Never back an unbeaten run with Tottenham, mate. You know, there's always a hiccup along the way. Cheers, Drew. Jim, what's coming up on Spurs, my man?
So released episode today with JJ, who's an A licensed coach, and he coaches for a living. So he knows his stuff, and he really went over the tactical changes against Glint that we hope we'll see in the next game. So you can find that on there. And then if you remember, you'll see me just ranting at the camera and kind of walking around on the members only content, if that's your thing. And then dropping tomorrow at 7 a.m. is an interview with one of the editors for one of the tabloids in Spain to go over Cardoso, all the information on that setup of his structure. It's not as simple as it seems. That deal is far from done with us. And
sorry, Jim. Yeah, I don't want to steal your content, mate. You mentioned the back stream. I completely forgot to bring it up. Did you want to give us some of the tidbits from that without spoiling the content?
No, absolutely. Like it's all about just sharing the love. So it's all good. It's the main thing I think to take away from that or surprise people is the player doesn't have to accept a conversation around a contract with us. So the club has to accept a bid, but he doesn't have to entertain a conversation with a contract with us. He's valued at significantly more than our buyout clause, which is good for us. But that makes it less appealing for Betis to want him to join Tottenham. Right, because if they could get 40 million from Liverpool, Man United, whoever, instead of 21 million from us, that's better for them. And you'd assume the agent as well, right? Who's going to get a percentage of the transfer fee in some form. So there's a lot of complexities we go over on there in that episode that we talk about and kind of explain in more details and some of the other clubs that are potentially interested in him. So
Is there any? I guess from that on the counterintuitive on that is that if Tottenham only paid 21 million for a player, and then because Man United or whoever else might be interested, they would have to pay 40 or 35. Putting that caveat around that, Betis can accept any bid, but they have to accept Tottenham's, but the player doesn't have to do anything. Your argument that it's better for the agent if they get a slice of a bigger sell-on fee, a bigger transfer fee from a different buyer. You could also caveat that or counteract that by saying that the agent would come to Tottenham and say,
"Oh, absolutely, yeah. Look, what to do.
You get a player here. You pay him. You pay the player
absolutely
£50,000 a week. So Are we still in the driving seat for the transfer? Is that
It sounds like we are, yeah. And a lot of it sounded like the way it's going is, well, why would he rush and commit to us now? We've put something forward, it's there, but the player's kind of like, well, I may as well just see. Like, and fair play. Why would you take an offer from Spurs? Like, just in case Man City go, Rodri's injury is worse than we thought. We want to build. I'm not saying they were the different players, but you know what I mean. A bigger offer comes for salary we can't match. So they're going to wait and see what happens into the season on that, by the sounds of it. So
it's a bit of a kick in the gut, because I was like speaking all week saying I really do see the value in this guy. Not just because I think he's a good player, but in terms of what we need, he's a 6. Even in a world, I didn't know what you're. I can't wait to see the video tomorrow. So make sure you get over to Oso Spurs and check it out when it comes out at 7:00 UK time. But to me, I was like the idea of Johnny Cardoso as like a no-brainer if we don't win, and it's just like a gimme that we're going to get him. Now I'm like, oh wow, actually that's not the case. But I see the value in the player, regardless of Champions League football or otherwise, because his ability to switch the play is incredible, and his tenacity, his fight, his desire, his tackling. He does everything that we don't have in a midfielder right now. And as I always say, like there's unique value in certain players. I think Sarr has unique value that most other players don't have. I don't think he's great yet. I think he's got a lot to learn, but I think he's got unique value. I think Decky has incredible unique value, and I think unique value is rare, and therefore a commodity that should be sort of gobbled up if the opportunity exists. And I think that for us, we need someone that can do a little bit of what Cardoso can, because there's no one else in our team that can do it. Not Bentancur, not Sarr, not Bissouma. So I thought it was just given.
But he sounds like a great addition. Yeah. Sounds like it'd be fantastic. So let's see. It's still very much on the table. So
we'll hope so. I like the guy. He's a good-looking guy. Shout out to Ren, who's just, as soon as I say good-looking, look, there she is. How are you doing, mate? We're going to leave it there, guys. Get over to Oso Spurs. There he is. New members can access tomorrow at 7 a.m. There you go. I'm guessing the new members. That's a nice little trick, isn't it?
Members can access it now. Non-members can access it tomorrow at 7 a.m. Yeah. Members get stuff straight away. They get stockpiled content when I do like 3 videos in a day.
Very cool. Very cool. I need to treat my members with more respect. I need to start doing more merch. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Drew and the wonderful Jimbo. Always great to have you on. Always a wonderfully educational and insightful conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like, smash the subscribe, smash the comment section afterwards. Get over to Irish Hotspur and TTID, Spurs Diehards, where Drew can be found on the regular. And I hope to be bringing Drew in here on the regular more often, and also get down to Oso Spurs for the wonderful stuff that Jim and his crew over there present. Love you all. Leave you there, and I'll see you tomorrow, guys.
Take it easy.
Cheers, guys. See ya.
Come on, you Spurs.
Nice one. Come on, you Spurs.